Hi, everybody. This is Kathy Mamolen. I'm a psychic medium and intuitive life and love coach. I'm going to share with you the thrillers that I read in the month of September. Now, I'm going to go through each of these and let you know if these thrillers spooked the psychic. So this was a challenge that I have been doing on my channel, and I had posted the books that I was going to take a look at. Now, I am a professional psychic medium, but when I am not talking to spirits in real life, I love to read. And I thought that what I would do is share with you the books that I'm reading this month, and they are thrillers or spooky books, and let you know if they spooked the psychic. So let's get started. I have quite a few books that I've gone through, and I'm not a professional reviewer. These are just for you if you're interested in learning about some books, you don't know what to read, and you don't know where to start. Okay, so let's just go through some of these and I'll share with you my experience, what I thought about them, and you can decide whether you would like to read them for yourself. The first book is Home Before Dark by Riley Sager. And Riley Sager is a very well-known thriller writer. I have two of her books today. So I love reading her books. First of all, they move very quickly. They're very engaging. They're very page turner. And you just kind of fall into her books. I mean, they're very, very easy to read. So this is a story about Maggie. And Maggie's parents bought a home 25 years ago. The name of the house was Bainbury Hill. It was an old estate and it was on the market for a long time. And the parents said, why is this house on the market? It's such a deal. Why is it such a deal? And they were, a young couple with a young little girl, 5-year-old little girl, Maggie. And they bought the house because it was a steal. And the real estate agent said, there was a death here, but, it is what it is. And they said, well, okay, we can get over that. We just won't think about it, right? So they move into the house, and within a very short period of time, less than 30 days, 20 something days maybe, they're totally creeped out by this house. This house they are totally scared to death of this house, all of the things that are happening, and they flee in the middle of the night. And Maggie, as a child, only remembers fleeing the house, doesn't remember all the circumstances of the fleeing, doesn't remember all the episodes, and her parents never talk about it again. So then her father dies. And she realizes that her parents had been divorced. Her father had maintained the house all these years. 25 years later, she inherits this house. And she's in the business of flipping houses. She's in the business of renovating houses, flipping houses. So she says, well, I'm going to go up there. I'm going to fix it up and I'm going to flip it. I'm going to put it back on the market. So she goes back up to this house that she hasn't been to for 25 years, and nobody's been there for 25 years. And it's a lot of twists and turns, and she wants to know the truth about what happened when she was a kid. Her father had written a famous book about their episodes. So it's a whole kind of twisty, turny series of events to get to the truth of what happened to her as a little girl at age 5. So it's pretty awesome. It is pretty awesome. I love a good thriller. I love a good page turner. I like something that holds my attention. And Home Before Dark did that. So this is a great book for those of you that are looking. First of all, Riley Sager is excellent. Okay, so if you're looking for a thriller author, she is amazing. Okay, so that is the first book. So the second book, now some books, I don't know about you guys, but you ever read a book and then you watch a movie that's made by it afterwards and you're like, the book was better. The book was better. And I don't know whether it's because my imagination is more vivid or how I imagined it is different than the person who creates the movie. But this is going to be one of those books that if they ever made this into a movie, it would never compare to what is in my head. Never, never, ever meet the expectations of what I went through in this book. So this should be a movie someday. It should. I read this book, I think, in 2 sittings. Now, I'm a pretty fast reader, but that's even fast for me. Okay. This is No Exit by Taylor Adams. This held my attention. This was awesome. This was an awesome book. This is about and I'm looking down at notes only because, all of these books, they all have similar plots. They all start to mumble jumble and after a while, but I want to make sure I get this accurate. So the girl's name is Darby, and she's a college student, and she gets a call that her mother is dying from cancer. And she lives away at school. And I think she's like a sophomore in college, something like that. And so she's going to go home for Thanksgiving. She's rushing home for Thanksgiving. Her sister just let her know that she has a very sick mother. The mother's going into surgery. So she is rushing home to get there. And I think it's upstate New York. And she is driving through a blizzard. Okay, can't see. She's in a little baby, beat up car, like a college student car. And she can't see. Her windshield wiper breaks. I mean, it's just a mess, right? And if anybody, I grew up in New England. I grew up in New Hampshire. So I know what it's like to drive in a snowstorm. So I definitely felt her pain. So she, realizes all the roads are closed, state of emergency, get off the road. So she sees an exit ahead, and the exit says rest stop. So she says, all right, well, I better stop. I better pull over. I'm going to be stuck on the highway with no gas and freeze to death. So she pulls over to rest stop, and the rest stop has another couple, a man and a woman, and then 2 other men in it. And they're playing cards, and they've already been stranded, and they're kind of hanging out, and they're like, hey, looks like we're in for the long run. There's a couple of bathrooms, there's benches, there's a bunch of brochures, and there's a couple of coffee urns. I mean, there's nothing there, right? So she settles in, and she starts to get used to the idea. And one of the guys says, well, why don't you go check outside there? I got a cell signal up by the statues up the way. So she takes a walk up towards the statue. She can't get a cell signal. She just wants to let her sister know that she's stuck at the rest area and she can't get out. So on the way back from checking the signal, she's walking past the cars that are in the parking lot. Now, there's only a handful of cars in the parking lot because there's only a handful of people in the rest stop. So she happens to walk by this van, and out of the corner of her eye, she sees a little hand go up. And she's like, is that a hand? And she says, well, maybe I should look. She's like, that can't possibly be a hand, right? She thinks, she's in the blizzard, it's snow, her mind's playing tricks on her, she's tired. She peers into the window of the van, and in the window is a little girl, age 9. And she's in a dog cage, tied up in a dog cage. So she's like, holy crap, there's a little girl in this van, and somebody in that rest stop has kidnapped this child. So she goes back into the rest stop, and she has to pretend that everything's normal. And she has to try to save this child. So she goes through this unbelievable series of events that I couldn't put this book down. I could not put this book down. I was like, it's one of those books where you're like, run, run, Darby, or don't open that door, or look behind you, or you're just waiting for the boogeyman to jump out, right? Cold, scary, dark, creepy, twists and turns of who in the rest stop it's connected to and who's involved. Do they know each other? Did they know each other beforehand? Just unbelievable action. Unbelievable action. I mean, it really was so fast paced. It was so exciting. I think out of all the books that I've read this month, this was the most exciting book. So I would say, you know, I mean, I'm not going to tell you what book to buy, but if you're going to read one book, this is a page turner. This was a page turner for me. It was a lot of fun. It was very fast. It was very easy to read, and it was a page turner. So that was really fun for me. Okay, so that was a good one. The next one, again, I'm not a professional, reviewer. This is just my personal opinion. I'm just a psychic who reads thrillers for fun. Okay, that's all I am. I see everything that's spooky and creepy in my real life. So I can handle these things, and I'm always like, will this scare me, right? Will this scare me? All right, so the next book is In My Dreams I Hold a Knife. And right there, I mean, hello. I mean, just anything with a knife is scary, right? Anything with a knife. So this is by Ashley Winstein. Okay, Ashley Winstein is the author. I really loved this book too. And the reason why I love this book is this is a girl who is going to a 10-year college reunion. And she wants to be perfect for this reunion. She wants everybody at the reunion to see how successful she is. She's beautiful. Her hair is a different color. Her teeth are perfect. Like her outfits are perfect. She wants to give this impression of like, look at who I've become 10 years later. And that's all she's focused on heading into this reunion. Now, 10 years earlier, one of her best friends, or 6 friends, one of her best friends was murdered. And one of her other friends was accused of the murder. So this close group who did everything together all through college, they knew each other, they were best of friends, they were always doing all the activities together and, relationships amongst each other, that kind of a thing. And it's such a great book in the respect of relationships. Like, it just reminded me of my friendships that I had when I was in college and the connection. Like, you have relationships with each one of them, and then they have relationships with each other behind the scenes that you're not aware of. So the perspective changes throughout the book from each of the friends. And it's like each of the friends' story and what they went through and what they experienced and through their eyes. So I did love that. Now, entering into the reunion, they are presented with one of them was actually the murderer. One of them had to be the murderer. So it became this kind of like process of elimination 10 years later with all the evidence, twists and turns. The brother of the girl that was murdered, Heather, kind of instigating this and like, I'm here to find out the truth and you're not leaving here until we find out the truth. And this weaving of these connections and these relationships in this friendship and all the roller coaster rides that they go through was unbelievable. It really was. I mean, it really was awesome, because if you've ever had those types of friendships, certainly like your college friends, like I did, it's true. You have different connections with each of them, and they're connections that you have for the rest of your life, right? So at the end, I'm not going to tell you what happened at the end, but the whole book unveils kind of all the dirt and the stuff and the secrets behind the scenes that nobody knew about, that nobody talked about. So just really cool book. Definitely held my attention. In My Dreams I Hold a Knife. I would say, I mean, all of these books are excellent. I mean, the reason why I'm doing this today is just to kind of encourage you to read. If you're not a big reader now, I don't expect you to read as many books as I do a month, because that's probably not normal for most people. But I would encourage you to read a book every once in a while because it's fun and it's different. It gets you away from social media. It gets you away from thinking about your, what's going on in your head and in your life and the things that I work on my channel. So I'm going to encourage any of you to pick up one of these books. So let's keep going. That was a fun book. I loved that book. All right, let's go to the next book. When Darkness Finds You by Chris Cooper. Okay, so this is now, who doesn't like a haunted house story in the middle of Halloween season, fall? This is like, I refer to it as my peak season as a psychic, like Halloween season, spooky, right? I do a lot of psychic circles, like where, I'm able to talk to lost loved ones all at once. So, so Halloween time is a big, big deal for me. I've always loved the fall. So this is a story about a house called the Auburn House. And the journey is about a girl who loses her father. Okay. She loses her father. She's grieving her father. She's having a very traumatic time with the loss of her father. And right in about the same time, within weeks of her losing her father, one of her best friends loses her husband. And she says, oh boy, I better be there for her. I better go and try to help Amy. And Amy and her husband had just recently bought a house. Now, they were in the business of flipping houses. They had some kind of social media, video vlogging, something like that, where they would record, the home and flip it. And her husband dies suddenly. Okay. And they get into this house and it's very tragic. So her and another friend are there to try to help Amy. And all of a sudden, the house is weird. The house is old. They've renovated the kitchen, but nothing else in the house has been renovated. And there's weird sounds, there's weird things, and they're like, well, it's just an old house, and they just kind of chalk it up for old house until one night, she wakes up and she hears somebody in the kitchen and she goes in and she sees her father cooking pork chops. And her father's like a spirit, a ghost, there to say, hi, honey, you want to sit down and have dinner with me? Now, she was so grieved by her loss of her father that she was so excited to see her father, that she was talking to him and he looked so normal. He was younger and he wasn't sick. And it just felt great to see her father again. So she chalks it up as, that must have been a dream. That must have been a dream that my father came to visit me last night, right? So days go by and weirder things start to happen. And the house is like talking to them. I don't know how to describe it any other way. It's like the house has things that have happened in the house. And the house is like reacting to those things. So over the course of days and weeks, they uncover this kind of series of events. And, and the house is like attacking them, trying to hold them hostage. And it feels like they're like, I'm not leaving here without my friend Amy. And, like, we're going to survive this. I mean, it's like this cat and mouse chase thing happening. And it does have a really kind of cool twist at the end. And I wasn't expecting that. I would say that I kind of went, okay, I mean, I can handle the ghosts. I can handle somebody's spirit coming and talk to me. I mean, in my world, that's like, okay, I do that every day, right? But when they realize that the ghost wasn't really her father's spirit, but a spirit of someone else, that's when things get serious. That's when things get spooky and a little bit scary. So I think it's a fun book. It was a fast read. I think that it was a fun book and a fast read. Okay. So this is the When Darkness Finds You. When Darkness Finds You. So it was a pretty easy read. I got through it very quickly. Okay. So let's see what else we have. All right. So the next book is another Riley Sager book. And as I said, I love this author. I think this author is excellent. I think this author is, I don't want to say the best, but she's certainly up there. There's so many good ones. But this is Final Girls. And this has been out there for a while. I haven't ever read it, but it's a pretty popular book. And it's a great book. I just finished it. A couple days ago. This is a story about Quincy. Okay. 10 years ago, she was a college student. I've been on this run of colleges, college girls, a lot of the thrillers. And she was a college student. And 10 years ago, her and her friends went and rented a cabin so that they could party off campus and they could, smoke and drink and party and play music. And they're in a cabin in the woods. So nothing is creepier than a cabin in the woods in the dark, right? To make a long story short, the reason why she's called a final girl is because she is the only survivor that leaves the cabin that night. And so her and two other episodes of these massacres have occurred over the years. And there were 3 final girls. So these massacres were basically a group of people have gotten murdered, and the only survivor is this one girl who survives. And they're known as the final girls. And the final girls have this bond that nobody else has. And because nobody can imagine what they have gone through but them, right? So this Quincy doesn't remember anything from that night. Now, all of her friends were murdered that night. Gone. She doesn't remember a thing. All of a sudden, one of the final girls commits suicide, or they think she commits suicide. And it brings up all these feelings. Lisa committed suicide. Why would she survive all those years ago to only kill herself today? It didn't make sense. And then out of the woodwork comes another final girl, Sam, who she had never seen. She was off the radar screen for years. And Sam is like, we need to stay together. We're final girls. And twisty-turny events as Sam pushes her to the brink and pushes her to a point where she starts to remember things. And out of the woodwork comes these memories and bits and pieces. And it does take this amazing turn of events at the end that you're like, whoa, I wasn't expecting that. So it is a story about a survivor. It's a story about, what I can't even imagine, what somebody would have gone through those evenings. And she blocked it out for 10 years. And then 10 years later, in these bits and pieces, all of a sudden, they all start coming together. So it's an amazing story, amazing journey. Again, a page turner. I love the pace of Riley Sager's books because the pace of her books are very engaging. Like you really feel like you're in the story. You feel like you are there when it's happening, and I love that about a book. It's like, I feel like I have to be in the book, if that makes sense. So I do feel that. And she does reveal this, kind of scary, nightmarish series of events that happened that night. And, I would say that was pretty creepy. I mean, just the being alone in the woods with a serial killer. Hello. That's kind of creepy right there. So that's Final Girls by Riley Sager. And so that is really good. That's a really good one. So let's see, what else do I have? What else did I read? This is I think it's a new book on the market. I'm not sure. I will tell you, I just joined. I spend way too much money on books. I really do. I mean, it's ridiculous. And then it's like, where do I put them? I don't want to. I have a big, huge library with my tarot decks already. So I don't want a big, huge library of books. So I get stuck with all these books. So the good news is that I joined my public library. And I have, I can get whatever I want now. So I'm just going to use the library. So for those of you that don't use your library, check out your library because it's amazing. All right. So this book is The Night She Disappeared. This is by Lisa Jewell. I think this is a new book by her. I'm not, up on new releases and what's being released this month, but I do feel like this is a new book or a relatively new book by her. Lisa Jewell, The Night She Disappeared. Okay. So right there, anybody disappearing is kind of scary right there, right? So this is a story about Tallulah and Zach, who have a young baby. And they want a night out because they have a young baby and they're in a couple, and they go to a college friend's house in the state, and they go out and they have a party. Okay. They never come home. They never come home. Their mother, Kim, is hysterical. And she says, my daughter and her boyfriend would never leave their baby. The both of them live with the mother. They would never leave their baby. They're dedicated college students. They have a young child. They love this baby more than anything. And so the mother knows that something is wrong. And she goes and knocks on, the house that had the party. The mother of the daughter who had the party says, oh, no, she left. They walked home. They were going to call a cab. We never heard from them again. We never saw them again. Just kind of like, good luck on your search, even though your two kids are missing after they were at my house all night. Okay. A writer moves into the college community. She is actually a thriller writer. She writes thriller books, mystery books, and thriller books. And she's moving into the college campus with her new boyfriend, who's the, dean of the school or some kind of position at the school that's important. And she decides she's going to move there with him. And she's checking out the house and she's checking out the garden. She checks out the yard. And in the back of the yard, in the back fence, is a sign, handwritten sign. And it says, dig here. She's like, that's weird. So she digs up these things, these clues. And she starts to make these connections that these clues are connected to these missing children somehow. And she won't let it up. She's supposed to be writing. She's supposed to be home working, and she's not. She's becoming like a sleuth. And her and Kim, the mother, team up together, and they start chasing down these leads. And they start, because Kim's like, you know what? My daughter's a cold case. The police haven't found her. I'm not going to ever give up on finding my daughter. And this author says, I'm going to help you. And she keeps tracking things down and chasing things down. And every time she gets a lead, it turns over something else. It is so cool how this book unravels. It really is. I mean, it definitely held my attention. I definitely will say that, first of all, she's a beautiful writer. She's an excellent writer. So the book itself is well written. Okay. Held my attention, held my pace all the way until the end. And I loved the clues. I loved the unveiling of the evidence. Like it just kept building. It kept clicking along. I don't know how to say it any other way. It's like one clue led to the next, led to the next, led to the next. And at first you were like, I'm not sure how that makes sense. And then all of a sudden, all of these puzzle pieces start to come together. And you're like, are you kidding me? It was a great book. It was a great book. I would recommend this book to anybody. I really would. I would recommend this book to anybody. The Night She Disappeared. Okay, I'm not going to tell you how it ends because I do not want to spoil anything for anybody. There's nothing worse. But this is a great book. I thought this was good. All right, the last book that I read this month that I want to share with you to see, can these books, this was part of my challenge for the next couple of months, can these books spook a psychic is what I had asked you, like, can you actually scare a psychic? All right, so this book is kind of spooky. I will say this book is kind of spooky. This is the Sundown Motel by Simone St. James, and I'm reading The Broken Girls now. She's got a couple of bestsellers out. Okay, this is a ghost story. I mean, this definitely has ghosts. I mean, it definitely has supernatural things going on, or at least phenomenons that you think are going on. This is a story about an old motel, and like any motel in the United States, like just the single floor L with the doors outside and the outside pool with the little desk in the front, and, you could be anywhere in any state, anywhere in the country and connect to this feel of this motel. And 25 years ago, Vivian took a job there because she needed a job. So she's working at the motel, and strange things are always happening at the motel. Weird things are always happening at the motel. Well, Vivian goes missing and is never found ever again. There's no dead body. Nobody ever hears from her. She's just gone, disappears, vanished. And 25 years later, Vivian's sister, was always upset that she never found her sister. They never really talked about it, but it was always kind of unspoken. And she has a daughter, and her daughter's name is Carly. So Carly is actually Vivian's niece. Well, her sister dies, and Carly's grieving. And she says, I wonder whatever happened to my Aunt Vivian. Somehow she gets it in her head she's going to seek out that motel and she's going to just look around. She ends up at the motel. She ends up taking a job at the motel, the very same motel that her aunt had taken a job in 25 years earlier. And immediately, creepy things, strange things start to happen. Seeing people. Now, I'm a psychic, so these things do happen in real life. Things like smelling smoke. Okay, she smells smoke. Nobody's smoking. There's nobody around. She opens the doors. There's nobody there, right? So these things start to happen. The appearance of a little boy in the middle of like the fall when it's cold and he's in like summer clothes. A woman up on the upstairs balcony when nobody's checked into the hotel. So she's like, what is going on? And she just keeps trudging through going, like, this is either my imagination or who are these people? What has happened here? And these things start to unfold. These things, stories about people going missing, stories about accidents happening at the hotel, the little boy drowning, all kinds of things, right? And the bottom line is she just wants to know whatever happened to Vivian. What happened to my Aunt Vivian? So she goes through a lot to find out what happens. And this definitely is a thriller. I mean, it definitely can spook you. I would say it spooks me. Did it scare me to death? No, but it's kind of creepy. I would definitely say creepy. I'd put in the category of this is super creepy. This is super creepy. And she just at the end of the day wants to know what happened to her Aunt Vivian so that she can put her aunt's memory even. I mean, if she found a body, great. But if she can put her aunts to rest, like she was never put to rest, you know, like her mother never had closure. So she's like, I want to have closure from my mother, even though my mother isn't even here anymore. So it is a pretty awesome book. It is definitely a pretty awesome book. And I went right out and bought The Broken Girls. You know, when I find an author that can hold my attention and I think that they are great, I'm going to say that they do, you know, it was a great book. I'm like, you know what, their other work is probably equally as good, right? So I'm reading The Broken Girls now, so I will let you know about The Broken Girls next. But this is awesome. The Sundown Motel. This was creepy. This was a thriller. This has some ghosts. This has some things that I could relate to as a psychic. So those are the thrillers that I read this month. If you have enjoyed this video, please comment below. If you have some recommendations, I'm always looking for books to read. If there's a thriller that you have read that you think that I would love, please put it down below in the comments and let me know. So I'm having a lot of fun with this. This is my kind of season. As I said, this is my, you know, my spooky season. You know, I mean, this is my life. I'm not making fun of being a psychic medium because I take it very seriously. I am a gifted psychic. But I do enjoy in my off times, I do enjoy to read. So I'm enjoying sharing that with you. Okay. So I hope that anybody picks up these books. I hope you enjoyed this, and we will see you all again soon. Bye-bye.